Hello everyone, DJ here. Welcome to my channel, as you always are welcome. Please bear with me for a moment. I'm going to talk to you about when a preacher, Dear Moodley is his name, he answered a question about Mohammed. It cost him 13 hours in a jail cell and a £650 in legal fees. He was answering a question that was asked by a student. And he answered it. He wasn't talking about Mohammed. He's a street preacher. He was teaching about abortion on his preaching. But this student, a female student, came up to him and asked him about Mohammed, and he spent 2 minutes talking to her about it, and found himself an hour later being arrested by the police. Welcome to the United Kingdom. This is the price we're paying today. Today is the first anniversary of his unlawful arrest for preaching outside the University of Bristol. So it's exactly 12 months. Well, it was yesterday, exactly 12 months yesterday that he was arrested for answering a question in the street. The topic for his preaching was abortion, as I said before. A member of the public asked him a question about Mohammed, and he answered it in 2 minutes and went back to preaching about the abortion subject. An hour later, police arrived to slap the handcuffs on him. Why? For talking about Mohammed. And now, he was talking about Mohammed, yes, during Ramadan. That was his offence, talking about and answering a question about Mohammed during Ramadan. Now, let's get this straight. All the mosques in Britain and across the world were celebrating or commemorating Ramadan and were talking about Mohammed. But a Christian preacher wasn't allowed to answer a question about Mohammed. Two-tier policing, anyone? In all of his preaching, he has come up against publicly blaspheming against the Christian God, our God, the Creator, so many times in front of police officers, and yet there is zero consequence for their behaviour. But make a factual comment or statement about Mohammed and you get arrested. The 2-minute factual answer cost him, as I say, 13 hours in a jail cell, a police jail cell. And whilst there, the constabulary tried a number of ways to make the arrest lawful by adding on extra charges. They were unsuccessful. The arresting officer, let me get this straight, the arresting officer said the arrest was on suspicion of an assault. What was that? A suspicion of assault? The reason for this was Mr. Moodley, the preacher, street preacher, was trying to get his signboards back from a group of students who had violently pushed him off a ladder, stole his sign and then stood on it, stamping on it. Mr. Moodley, in recovering his property, was seen that it was an assault. How come? Well, he asked the students to step off the sign and return it to him. They refused. He warned them that he was going to push them back to recover his sign. They still refused. He pushed on the shoulder of the thief and this was viewed as an assault. The police making clear later on that he was well within his rights to do so, to get his property back. Then why arrest him? Moodley was not charged with any crime at the police station, and that incident, after spending 13 hours in a police cell, cost him £650 in employing a solicitor, who, on confronting the police, they let him go, but 13 hours later in a prison cell. And now I've been arrested several times for what I say, and I've been in a police cell. They're not nice. They're not meant to be nice. They're meant to intimidate you so that when they get round to questioning you, you already feel intimidated. You already feel sort of low in yourself, and you're willing to say anything to get out. If you're not wise enough to speak up, tell the truth, or if they're trying to trick you, don't say anything at all. because if they're going to arrest you, they actually say you have the right to remain silent. And you go, thank you very much. And it really puzzles the police. they do. They go, well, are you going to answer our questions? Well, you just told me I have the right to remain silent. Yeah, but anyway, I've digressed, haven't I? I've digressed. The Muslims and their backers in public and on the university campuses are being given preferential treatment by police, given more and more rights of protection by the police at the expense of non-Muslims. Can you imagine Hindus, Buddhists, or can I say it, Christians, being given the same kind of protection? I can't. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner launched a new working group tasked with understanding and defining hate crime targeted against Muslims. The government has appointed former Conservative Attorney General Dominic Grieve to lead the review into creating a new definition of Islamophobia. Grieve said, "We know in Islamophobia, it's hard to say when I'm struggling here. We know Islamophobia is challenging to define as its existence is undoubted." Is it? He hasn't chaired the meetings yet, and he's already saying that is okay. He's already defining it as being proven before he's even seen it. He said, "We know Islamophobia is too challenging to define as its existence is undoubted. We need to balance addressing the lived experience of those who are victims of it and the right of the British Muslims to feel heard and protected as equal citizens in our country, with the unwavering requirement to maintain freedom of thought and expression under the law for all." That's a contradiction. It's a contradiction of facts. They've got to have protection, but we must maintain freedom of thought and expression under the law. So this man answers a question on Mohammad, and so he's expressed his freedom under the law, and he's arrested. So he's expressing his freedom that Dominic Grieve said he got to uphold. Yet, no, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Announcing the new review, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, launching the new group, said, "The rise in anti-Muslim hate crime is unacceptable and has no place in our society." Is there a rise in anti-Muslim crime? I'll get to that later. "That's why we've committed to defining anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia as a crucial step forward in tackling it and creating a society where everyone feels safe and welcome." Now, hang on. She's concentrating on anti-Muslim crime, Islamophobia, but then says it will make everybody feel safe and welcome. No, it won't. No, it won't, Angela Rayner, because you're concentrating on making new laws to protect Muslims where you're not protecting any other ethnic group in this country. And that is totally wrong. I remember I'm going off topic again for a moment, but in the 90s, maybe coming up to 2000, I applied for a job working with a group of youngsters. And I was interviewed by a Church of England, I believe it was, committee. And I was asked the question, "Do you speak an ethnic language?" And I said, "Of course I do. I'm speaking it now. I speak English." And he said, "No, an ethnic language." I said, "The ethnicity of England is English. It's the English people. It's English. And that I speak English in England, and I don't understand the question going any further." I didn't get the job. But, because already these white people in the Church of England had already said, we must placate, we must indicate that we are not Islamophobic, so we will help and speak their language and we will do this and that. Yes, if I'm in Pakistan, I will speak Urdu. But I'm in England and I speak English. I lived a little while in Thailand. and I learned a little Thai. Couldn't hold a full conversation, but I could get by, and I could, I could watch their television programs and understand. But there's 4 tones in Thai language and in Chinese and in the Oriental languages, and there's 4 tones. I always got them wrong. But that's another story. So, what's the truth of the matter of Islamophobia? A new survey on racism and ethnic inequalities, the Evidence for Equality National Survey, which breaks down to the word EVENS, Evidence for Equality National Survey, reveals the extent of racism and racial discrimination by people from ethnic and religious minority groups in Britain. Co-produced by the King's University of Manchester and the University of St Andrews, the survey was carried out by the Centre on Dynamics of Ethnicity. The racism reported by the survey's correspondents, or respondents, if you like, took different forms. They covered physical, verbal, or damage to property, and happened in all areas of life, including education, work, and when looking for housing. Data collection took place between February and November 2021. So, 9 months, yes, when people were asked about their experiences before the pandemic, the COVID, and their experiences since the beginning of the pandemic. Evans, with already evidence of them, has a sample of 14,200 participants, of whom 9,700 identifies as members of ethnic and religious minority groups, uniquely allowing comparative analysing of their experiences. Racial discrimination in education was reported by half of those who identified as Romanians. Any other Black Caribbean and mixed white and Caribbean, with 44% of Gypsy travellers responding the same. So, claiming racial discrimination, 50% were Roma, and 44% were Gypsies, Afro-Caribbean, mixed white and black. No religion, see. Some ethnic groups also reported high rates of discrimination from police, including over 1/3 from the Black Caribbean community. Any other Black, Roma and Gypsy traveller groups. We still haven't got round to any racism with Muslims. Between 40 to 50% of Black Caribbean, any other Black and white and Black Caribbean groups reported facing racist abuse while out shopping in parks or cafes or restaurants or in the public transport. Almost 1 in 6 people also experienced racial discrimination from their neighbours, but this rose to 1 in 2 for other Black people and 1 in 3 for Gypsy travellers people. Now, I thought Gypsy travellers didn't have neighbours, but I thought they didn't go into houses. But then, during the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, Chinese, other Asians and Eastern European people reported an increase in experiences of racial discrimination relative to other ethnic minority groups. So it was the Chinese and the Orientals that experienced a rise in racial discrimination more than other ethnic minority groups. And some ethnic groups reported increasing policing during the first year of the pandemic. 1 in 3 Gypsy traveller people and 1 in 5 Roma people and Chinese people were stopped by the police in this period of time. Well. Now, isn't that strange? No talk here of brown people, of Afghanistans, of Pakistans. Will we find it different later on? Let's see. In this review, I noticed that racism was across the board, with various ethnic groups claiming differences in frequency of racist attacks and experiences. But in this survey, I didn't see any definitive recourse to being a Muslim. Information from the Government Office of National Statistics relate to, according to the crime survey for England and Wales, adults with Asian ethnic group were found to be more likely to be victims of religiously motivated hate crime than adults of a white ethnic group. And that was 0.5% of Asians, Orientals, and of white people, and less than 0.1% of Oriental. Perceptions of changing crime levels nationally. 90% of Sikh adults said crime had gone up a little, or maybe a lot, nationally in the past few years. This was higher than the Muslim adults. 79% felt that crime had gone up a little, or maybe more. Buddhists said 74%, and adults with no religion said 76%. So, what have we got here? That there is nationally, and nationally in the UK is England and Wales. It doesn't include Scotland or Northern Ireland. But you see, 90% of Sikhs, and they're easily identified with their turbans. They thought crime had gone up a little. Muslims, 79% thought it had gone up a little. Buddhists thought 74%, and those with no religion at all said 76%. So it's basically on the same plane. That some Muslims are not feeling any more racially discriminated against or religiously discriminated against than any other ethnic group, or an ethnic group includes the white English. So it's obvious that crime in Britain streets has increased. We know that. There's been stabbings, black-on-black knife crime is expanding, young people are having less self-control of their feelings, territorial gangs, drug gangs, violent video games. There's a fixation on entitlement that has been deeply entrenched that affects in the young people, that affects British society. It's fuelled, to my mind, by the abandonment of religion in schools, in the home, that previously taught responsibility, self-respect, respect for others, patriotism, and a moderation of our actions, and a duty to parents and society. Now, I've spoken too much now. I've said a lot. I would love to hear from you, but please, if you do want to hear from me, please press the like button, and especially the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny, doesn't cost you a cent, doesn't even cost you a rupee. It's totally free to subscribe to my channel, but it keeps me going. So if you would please subscribe to the channel, I'd be most grateful. And what I want to wish you now is be safe, be good, and from me, from DJ, goodbye.